You know, in the hidden corners of the digital world, there's this constant high stakes game of cat and mouse playing out. You've got criminals on one side trying to use cryptocurrency to cover their tracks, and on the other, a totally new kind of digital detective. So today, we're going to follow that crypto trail and see exactly how investigators unmask crime right on the blockchain. The whole world of crypto crime, the entire thing, is pretty much built on this one powerful myth that these digital coins are a perfectly untraceable, anonymous way to move money. It's the ultimate dream for anyone trying to operate outside the law. You hear this kind of thing all the time, right? That the money just goes in, poof, vanishes into the digital ether, and you never see it again. And look, that idea, that belief, has fueled a whole new generation of crime, everything from money laundering to ransomware attacks. But here's the thing. That core belief, it's just fundamentally wrong. What if the very same technology that's supposed to give criminals all this privacy is actually their biggest weakness? What if every single transaction, every transfer, every clue an investigator could ever want is actually being recorded permanently for the whole world to see? Okay, so let's start by completely dismantling this myth. To really get how crypto is traced, we first have to understand why it's traceable in the first place. And the answer is baked right into the design of the technology itself. So every crypto user has what's called a public address. The easiest way to think about it is like an IBAN for a bank account. It's that unique string of characters where you send and receive money. But unlike a bank, anyone can just create one, no questions asked. So on the surface, yeah, it feels anonymous. But here's the kicker. Every single transaction between these public addresses gets recorded on the blockchain. And this isn't some private company's server. It's a public ledger, copied across thousands of computers. That makes the data permanent and almost impossible to tamper with. The evidence doesn't disappear, it's basically set in stone. So investigators have this enormous public database of every transaction ever made. Great. But how do they even begin to make sense of it all? Well, they use two main approaches. One is for following the money, and the other is for figuring out who that money belongs to. Let's break this down. On the left, you have deductive examination. Think of this like being a bloodhound. You start with a known criminal transaction, and you just follow the money forward step by step, asking, okay, where did it go next? And then where? On the right, you have inductive examination. This is more like being a profiler. You look at the behavior of a particular address, its patterns, its connections, and you ask, who or what is this? Is it just a regular person, or is this something much bigger, like one of the major crypto exchanges? Both of these methods, the bloodhound and the profiler, are really driving toward one critical moment, what's called the change of custody. This is the jackpot. It's the point where a criminal tries to cash out, to exchange that dirty crypto for clean cash or other assets, or even services. This is where the digital trail finally crashes into the real world, and it's the investigator's absolute best shot at connecting a pseudonymous public address to a real-life person. Now, one of the most common places for that change of custody to happen is on a centralized crypto exchange. You know, the big names you've probably heard of, they basically act like banks for the crypto world, which of course makes them a prime target for investigators. So when a criminal sends funds to one of these big exchanges, it first lands in what's called a deposit wallet. And this isn't just one single address, it's a huge collection of addresses that the exchange uses to take in all the incoming crypto from its thousands and thousands of customers. An investigator who's doing that profiling, that inductive analysis, can actually spot these deposit systems on the blockchain. They're looking for very specific patterns. You know, a wallet that controls a massive number of addresses, a super high volume of transactions, tons of little unrelated payments flowing in from all over the place, and just this general pattern of funds piling up. It's a pretty clear signature once you know what to look for. Okay, so once the money is in those deposit wallets, the exchange moves it and consolidates it into a hot wallet. This is the big operational hub. Think of it like the central vault where the exchange manages its day-to-day cash flow, paying out withdrawals and just moving funds around to where they need to be. And yep, a hot wallet has its own very distinct on-chain fingerprint too. It has fewer addresses, but a massive balance and a constant flow of funds coming in and going out. You can see it receiving money from all those deposit systems we just talked about, and then sending money out to withdrawal systems. Investigators even see these big, clean, rounded number transactions, which is a classic sign of internal treasury management. So you might be wondering, how can investigators be so sure that all these different addresses actually belong to the same exchange? Well, one of their most powerful and reliable techniques is something called co-spending. It's actually pretty simple. If you see one single transaction where money is sent from, say, 10 different addresses all at once, it proves one thing with almost total certainty. Whoever made that transaction had to have the private keys for all 10 of those addresses, and therefore, one person or one entity controls all of them. This lets investigators cluster thousands of addresses together into a single identifiable wallet. It's a brilliant piece of digital forensics.
Centralized exchanges are one thing. But what about the wild west of decentralized finance, or DeFi? Where it's all automated programs instead of companies? It sounds way more complicated, and in some ways it is. But it has one huge, massive advantage for law enforcement. It's completely traceable. The engine that makes all of DeFi work is the smart contract. Now, this isn't a legal contract. It's a piece of code. It lives on the blockchain, and it's built to just run automatically when certain things happen. No person or company needed to push a button. So, by literally reading the smart contract's code, which is public on the blockchain, investigators can see exactly what's going on. They're looking for specific commands. A swap command? Well, that's an automated exchange. Add liquidity? That means someone's pooling their assets to help others trade. Every single function is a digital footprint, a crystal clear clue about where the money is going. And this reveals the really fundamental difference here. With centralized exchanges, at some point, you have to serve them a warrant and ask the company for information. With DeFi, you don't ask anyone for anything. The entire history, every function ever called, every single coin that's ever moved through it, it's all right there in the public ledger. The code is the evidence. Okay, so we've followed the digital breadcrumbs through exchanges and smart contracts, but how does all this digital detective work actually hold up in the real world? How does it make the jump from a transaction hash on a screen to a conviction in a courtroom? But before we get there, let's have a quick dose of reality. According to one study, the combined average error rate for these clustering techniques we've talked about is over 57%. Think about that. This is so important to remember. These tools are incredibly powerful for pointing investigators in the right direction, but they are not perfect. They aren't the final word. And this really brings us to what might be the single most critical takeaway from all of this. The software tools are just that. They're tools. The real key, the absolute game changer, is human expertise. It's the analyst's skill, their knowledge to understand the tech, to double-check what the tool is telling them, and to be able to reconstruct the evidence from scratch to prove that it's true. And this is how it all comes together in the end. The expert analyst uses that on-chain data to pinpoint the exact transaction where the dirty money hits an exchange. Then they go off-chain. They take that unique transaction ID, put it into a formal legal request, like a European investigation order, and they serve it to the exchange. And because that exchange has all its customers' real-world identity info for compliance, they are legally forced to connect that transaction to a name, an account, and a real person. The digital trail becomes hard, real-world evidence. So the old myth of untraceable crypto, it's really starting to crumble under the weight of the blockchain's own public record. But look, technology never, ever stands still. As new privacy tools get invented and new forms of finance pop up, this incredible cat and mouse game is just going to keep evolving. The only question is, who's going to have the upper hand tomorrow?